Hello and welcome to the How2Exit Podcast, where we introduce you to a world of small to medium business acquisitions and mergers. We interview business owners, industry leaders, authors, mentors, and other influencers with the sole intent to share with you what it looks like to buy or sell a business. Let's get rolling. And now a moment for our sponsors. I want to highly recommend you get Acquisition Aficionado magazine. Every month, Acquisition Aficionado magazine brings you tactics for business buying and selling you won't find anywhere else. Learn firsthand from industry leaders who share their success stories, featuring in-depth interviews and stories from leading figures in the business acquisition industry. This multi-platform mobile magazine speaks to acquisition entrepreneurs wherever they are in the journey. And I want you to visit acquisitionaficionado.com today. Hello, and welcome to the How2Exit Podcast. Today I'm here with Dan Taylor, and we're going to talk about mergers, acquisitions, and all things business. Dan here is an expert in some real estate strategies that are different than what we talked about before. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Thank you for being here, Dan.
Ron, absolute pleasure, buddy. Great to be here. I'm looking forward to our chat today.
Cool. We always start with kind of the origin story. I know you've been doing this for a while, but the running joke is you were born and then you ended up on a show about mergers and acquisitions. How in the hell did you end up on this show, man?
That's a good question. I asked myself that. How did we end up here? Well, we started quite some time ago. As you can see from the gray hair, I'm not a spring chicken, 58 years young, and, still at it. And because I love the game, and it's a beautiful game. Deal doing, mergers, acquisitions, real estate, buying businesses, owning trade from the real estate is kind of what I love to do. I love deals, learning, and experiences with a family. And I get to combine all that into the one thing, which is pretty cool. So how I started is, this is quite a little while ago, but it's a real awakening call in terms of anyone that's listening. Never think you can't do this. I'm about to tell you a brief story of somebody, and when I tell you the story, picture what's going on in that person's mind, his psychology, his emotional state of being, his awareness of different things in terms of business, real estate, and that kind of thing. So way back when, whatever it was, we grew up in Edinburgh, Scotland, and I started a donut kiosk. And lo and behold, it was called Dan's Donuts. Not just that, it was on the busy street in Edinburgh, and it was 6 foot by 4 foot. Can you believe? 6 foot by a mobile donut kiosk. Now, this taught me a number of lessons. Number one, cash is good. Cash is king. Cash flow is even better. But cash is king. A cash business means you don't have any debtors. You don't have any creditors. It's all paid at source. But obviously, it is not a business. But it's a start. And it got me into understanding a few things that I don't mind working, but there's working and then there's smart working and there's dumb working. And this was certainly in the latter. It was hard work. But we really started that core and that kind of donut kiosk, my brother and I, not to just make money. It was really, how do we tour all the best live events in Scotland? And how do we get to these events, not just for free, but how do we get paid for to go to these events and get backstage? And this little donut kiosk was our ticket to backstage, to concerts, to have a great time. So kind of combining making some money and having great experiences traveling throughout Scotland in the summer season, which was fantastic. So that's kind of how we started. And we went on from there and did a few other businesses, to be honest. And we did our first kind of what I call proper deal. We did things before this, but what I call proper deal was started about 1995. We did some kind of commercial to residential conversions before then, but the one that really kind of lit me up was in 1995. And it was a business that shut down and not just closed down. So this was a distressed business. And it owned its own commercial real estate. And we managed to pick this business up for £700,000. Now, when we picked, it was £117,000 and it was only 700 square foot. So this was like the size of a 1 or 2 bed flat. And it was a property just being closed. And we went to see the bank, convinced we got a deal for 117K. But in my first lesson, remember I told you about the donut kiosk psychology, thoughts going through your head. Why did you set this up? To have fun and make some money on the side? Well, from then on, I kind of started realizing that obviously I didn't know what I needed to know to get to my goal. So I then thought, who does know these kind of things? So eventually I got a mentor. First mentor was an American marketing kind of guru called Jay Abraham. He was awesome. And we picked up some incredible direct mail lessons from him, strategies, techniques, and employed those strategies in this business. And it cost us 117,000. And 2 years later, we sold it for 750,000, which is quite nice. And in terms of a return on investment for J. Abraham's £6,000, which back in 1995, 96, £6,000 was a lot of money. So that was a great return on investment. Um, and if we'd have known one more strategy, that £600,000 profit, we were 117 plus some refurb, sold for 750, 600K profit. If we'd have known one other strategy at the time, that profit would have been 1.1, 1.2 million instead of 600, which is quite incredible. So I'm always a believer in learning, being a student first, always. And if you want to learn something quicker, just pay someone to get there quicker. And we had our second mentor just after Jay, and he then taught us about acquisition in 1996, it was, I think. And we went from there. We did our first kind of acquisition after that first one, which I don't really call an acquisition because it was closed by the time we bought it, but it was. We did our first acquisition July the 4th, 1997. And then we proceeded, this was in the gaming space. And these were businesses that owned and traded for all their own commercial real estate. So they owned the business and the real estate. And we then proceeded to buy 30 of these things, these businesses in the same sector. And the game plan is really, really simple. Buy the businesses and commercial real estate at a multiple of profits, separate the commercials from the business, and then sell the business. And that's kind of what we've been doing since. To add to that strategy, we've done one other strategy. So two types of businesses we buy that own the real estate. One is very profitable and it's a roll-up. Yep. And it's multiple arbitrage on the business and also multiple arbitrage on the real estate as well. And you kind of get 2 bumps on the real estate, sometimes 3, but usually 2. And we can come back to that in a second. The other type of business we buy are businesses in decline that own and trade from their own commercial real estate. And what do we do there? We repurpose them. We repurpose them into investments, depending on the local demand. So one, we turned a bowling alley into a parade of, what do you call it? A retail parade, big £1 billion brands on very long-term leases. And another one,
Strip mall. Yeah.
Strip mall, sorry. And another one is going to be demolished and it's right next door to the university. So that's going to be 150 brand new student studios for the university. And that's not really the kind of thing we do, but it's just the demand was obvious in that location. So really the 2 businesses, one is roll-ups, very profitable businesses. One are businesses in decline where we repurpose to something else, I suppose. And that's kind of, in a nutshell, what we do. But we only do it for 2 things. Number one, thing one, capital events, always as everyone else does. But thing 2 is really my most favorite route. And that is always to end up with real estate on very long-term, secure, hassle-free leases. So that it's kind of hassle-free income. And for me, the kind of beautiful game is buying businesses in real estate, selling the business eventually, or repurposing the business into investment, and then stacking the multiple secure long income streams on top of each other so that you've got diversification in income streams, hassle-free income streams, all paid for by £1 billion brands that adds a lot of value to the commercial real estate to begin with.
It's funny, you and I have a lot of similarities. One of my first businesses that I did out of the military was just for the sheer love of getting into events. I would consider it a failed motorcycle racer. I tried to race dirt bikes and really wasn't that good. Never picked up any great sponsors, but I love going to the races. So I bought a bunch of photography equipment, got all my press passes, and a friend of mine actually owned a dirt mag. They literally called the dirt mag. It didn't succeed after very long, but for a long time I got free. He paid me 500. He'd give me tickets to the events, pay me $500 to go shoot photos for him. And a lot of times I got to be in the middle of this race because they had a photo booth, like a
Wow.
tower in the middle where you could sit in there with all the camera equipment and shoot. So not only did I get to go to the race, I was in the damn middle of the whole racetrack taking pictures of all the jumps and stuff. And you
Yeah.
didn't have to be a great photographer either because those cameras would shoot 4.5 frames a second. Use wet film back then, right? Regular film. So you just take a picture of somebody doing a jump and go, brrrr, and then like when you look at the photos, you're like, no, 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 yep. So you just sort like you have this huge stack of horrible photos, but you get 1 or 2 or 3 good ones that were magazine quality on that with those high-end, high-speed cameras. So let's talk about your real estate strategy because on our calls and on the podcast, we've talked about some real estate strategies that first time business buyers use. And when I mentioned it to you before the show, you're like, "Oh, that's child's play. That's a bad move." And what I'm referring to is some guys who lack funds and or don't have a lot of capital laying around. We do a method called a sales leaseback, which is similar to what you're doing. Only thing is you own the REIT, right? You own the real estate investment trust or in the investment vehicle holding that 30-year lease to where we're selling it to a third party that owns that REIT to get some capital to usually way over what we would pay for the real estate. So owner wants 1 million, the REIT will give us 1.5. We give the million to the owner because that's what he wanted. Now we got 500,000 to help as operating capital and growth capital. When I said that to you beforehand, you had an interesting reaction.
Well, let's back it up a bit. I mean, whenever it was, Andrew Carnegie, at some point, he was from Dunfermline, Scotland, actually, the richest man in the world at one point. And he famously said that over 90% of the world's millionaires, not billionaires, but millionaires are made through real estate. The problem with real estate is that you can easily get comparable evidence. So every man and his dog can go on the internet and get comparable evidence and be a quasi expert really, really quickly. So therefore, it's hard to get that edge over somebody else. Now, what Warren Buffett said is in one of his shareholder meetings recently, somebody asked him, Warren, if you started again without your billions and started with nothing, just a few handful of investors, what would you do? And he said, I would buy businesses, smaller businesses, because he's working with smaller sums of money. But he said, I would buy businesses. And one of the biggest reasons for businesses, obviously, it's income producing. It's an active income producing investment. And it's inflation friendly. Sales go up. Obviously, costs go up as well, but the bottom line goes up in a line with inflation. But he also said, when you're dealing with small businesses, there's a multiple of EBITDA kind of thing, but there's no scientific method. And it depends a lot on age, it depends on motivation, i.e. what you're going to pay depends on, like, take about the call we had today. Chap says 70 years old, unfortunately had cancer, he's in remission, and he's got the bank chewing down his door. And it's ridiculous what the bank's doing as a moral. And I know I'm a little bit off topic here, but I'm just saying in terms of valuing a business, his motivation is different to somebody else's. And so therefore the price is kind of going like this. So in real estate, what's on the market is easily to achieve or try and ascertain what the value will be. In businesses, it can be all over the place. Business values are depending on multiple different things. A lot of them come down to emotion, psychology, and also just vendor behavior, vendor psychology, where they are in their life, have they had a life event, health issues, that kind of thing. But so how can we get real estate without being prone to the market so everybody knows what the values are? And the way to do that, one of the ways you can do it, there's many ways, but one of the ways you can do that is buying businesses that already own their real estate. And say you're buying it at 4x multiple. That means you're buying the business at 4x multiple, and you're also getting the real estate at 4x. And like you just said, the sale and lease back, the sensible thing there, let's call it £1 million of EBITDA. So you're buying it 4 million or something, and let's leave to the side deferred consideration, working capital, and all that kind of stuff. We're just paying £4 million because it's £1 million of EBITDA. The minute you take £200,000 of rent to the side, you're probably getting 12 times on that. Then you've got immediate multiple arbitrage on the real estate, and that can happen on the day of completion. But why would you give that to somebody else? Because if you're buying businesses that are profitable, then surely the game plan would be to buy 3, 4, 5, or 6 businesses that are profitable and then sell those businesses without the real estate, hopefully to private equity that don't like real estate unless it's a private equity company that just does with real estate. So if you're buying one business and doing a sale and lease back, you might be selling at a 12 times multiple, which is an 8% yield on the real estate. Yeah. And you bought your business at 4. So you've made a nice little margin there. But imagine if you're repeating that process and doing it multiple times, you've got half a dozen businesses. Then you're not selling at 4 times multiple. You may be selling at 6 to 8 times multiple. So obviously everybody understands that that's the game. But the second compression in the real estate, the second bump in the real estate values comes from selling the business first to a private equity PLC, big balance sheet. Why? Because your 12 multiple over here, an 8 cap, goes from 12 to potentially 16 to potentially 18. So you're losing 50% of the value by selling at day one, just because you haven't figured out the financing aspect.
Yeah, I get that. The, I'll be honest, most of the people that are looking at doing the sell leaseback, it's to fund the deal. They don't either have the mechanisms or, maybe they're not so bankable. Like to go to a bank and get a lot of people that they're in these small businesses, these, $1 to $5 million acquisitions that you in the US happens all the time because the SBA will fund those. If it's got real estate associated to it or tied to it, it's a way to extend the SBA loan, which is a cool, they'll give you a longer loan and make a up to 50% of the business value can be the real estate. In the grand scheme of things, I think the reason most of the guys are doing it is it's a way to get into the deal without having to have, 100, 200, $300,000 laying around. You can
Yeah.
give that seller some cash at close. And then the long-term play, I could see where it could be detrimental, right? It could be you could have made a lot more money the other way around.
One
Go ahead.
day we did a sale and lease back. We bought 30 businesses and the thing was worth about 21 million at the time. And a small
Mhm,
business, so 3 million EBITDA. And we did a sale and lease back in preparation for a sale of the business. And then that took the
mhm,
value 30 million. So 21 to 30 in one day. That was before
yeah.
we sold PLC. As soon as we get the PLC on the hook, we go to 35. Yeah. So it depends on your own game plan. I mean, a lot of people, don't need to do that. They just, you got to start with what's your own goal. What do you need to actually furnish that goal or fuel that goal as in the minimum, not the maximum. Just what do you need to really get to your exit goal and then work that back. And that's kind of what you need. And if that means you do a sale and lease back, nothing wrong with that day one, as long as you understand that you're leaving a lot of money on the table for someone else. And that's cool if that's your gig. But if you want to do a roll-up, then you're missing half the compression of the real estate, which can add up to quite a lot of money.
I met one guy, we had him on here on the show, and he said he did the sales leaseback to fund his deal, and his deal was kinda cool, but he bought the entire business and paid the owner off for what he got out of the real estate on the sales leaseback. So the entire purchase of the real estate and the business together was $1,000,000, right around like 1.1, 1.2. So right around $1,000,000. He sold the real estate on the sales leaseback for enough to where he paid the owner off day one at closing for the entire value. And he walked away with $800,000 cash because he got he got enough that it was 800,000 over the closing price. So he got they operate off of, cap tables and stuff like that. I think you got like an 8 cap on the commercial property, and it was undervalued by the previous owner. The previous owner, you know, wanted a certain price for it, and he agreed to it, and he knew that on the sales leaseback. There's a difference if you're new and you're listening to this, what the reason that you can get a premium on real estate that the original seller can't get is the investor will pay a premium because they have a long-term tenant in it. Right?
Yeah.
So, a seller can't sell a business on day 1 and say, I've got a 15-year lease," right? Because they don't know what the new owner is gonna do. They can't commit that new owner, or at least they don't commit that new owner to a
I,
15-year lease.
I think that's a mindset thing where if I was, say I've got a business and I'm setting the business up for sale, then it
Mhm,
would be a planned exit where I would be selling the business first with already a long-term commercial lease in place that's landlord friendly. And after I sold the business, then I would sell the property if I was going to sell it, if it wasn't a long-term hold kind of thing. So you just get, and then you would want to pick who the buyer of the business is, because that's going to affect the commercial real estate values massively, hugely. So I would never
right.
do grind unless, taking 800 grand off completion is fantastic. If that's your gig, you carry on, do it again. But for me, there's a lot of levers to use in these transactions, especially when you have businesses, profitable businesses and the real estate, then you've got both sides of the same coin. And it only doing one side with no real estate means you're losing all the alchemy or the financial alchemy, whatever you want to call it, arbitrage, multiple arbitrage on the real estate side. So I kind of like this space as another reason why we do it is to protect investors. So when we buy something, if you pitch your holding company at the top, and then 3 circles below it. So the 3 circles are wholly owned subsidiaries. Yeah. And let's just use numbers of a transaction that looks quite good. The real estate is worth £500,000 and I need to raise 250,000 from investors. So I basically, the whole thing's in one company just now. I'd move the real estate into a different company, create a lease,
Hmm.
investors at probably 33% leverage. Why? Because it was 500,000 in value, but as soon as I create the lease, it's worth at least 750. So
Right.
I raised 250K at 33%. They've got a first joint charge. They are the bank. So I call them the bankers. They've got a first charge security. It's their pension money. So I'm going to protect that. I'm going to ring fence that asset into its own SPV so the corporate veil cannot be pierced. Now the vendor, the fair consideration, I've also got all the plant and equipment and lease that to the trading company. So the trading company is leasing the property for the investors. So they're protected. And we lease the plant and equipment in a separate company to the trading company. And that's first joint charge to the vendor to give him security, comfort, trust. That is the fair consideration is going to be paid.
He must have listened to you because the guy had on here, that's what I asked him, "Well, how many times are you gonna do that?" Because you got an $800,000 check. He goes, "I'm not doing it again." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "We're setting up a REIT, right, a real estate investment trust. I'm gonna seed the money into part of that's gonna seed my real estate investment trust. I'm gonna raise money from other people, and now when I buy other businesses in my roll up, we're the investor gonna do the lease back. So our company will own that lease. The REIT will own it." And he explained kinda what you explained, but it just didn't land right. Now I understand a bigger picture of what you're doing. You're now able to give debt-backed instead of a, equity-backed capital raise, you can do a debt-backed capital raise on a business because you have some form of hard asset to collateralize against it. And because if you structure it right and you set it in some type of REIT or something like that, you could even do pooling where it's cross-collateralized. You have a larger pool of assets than just what they need.
So there's two real assets: the property that's ring fenced and provides security for the investors, and
Mhm.
then here we've got the plant and equipment that's ring fenced at least to the trading business, and that provides security, comfort, and trust to the vendor for the deferred consideration, so they know they're going to get the money, or they don't allow us access to the equipment. So it's as simple as that. Now, what that provides is then the trading business unencumbered.
So I'm currently working with a group of people who are doing a roll up or buying up cabinetry, kitchen and bathroom manufacturing companies that manufacture cabinets and stuff. And one of the things happening in that industry is a lot of these current manufacturers can't compete with the regional or global manufacturers. So they end up really needing it to be just do installations in showrooms and order the boxes, and the boxes are the main parts of the cabinets, the heavy part. Just order those that are from another place. And then what they're doing is customizing the doors and knobs and all that type of stuff. That said, there's a brilliant play in there because a lot of these facilities are huge on prime commercial real estate. And they're old companies. The towns grew up around them. There are 3 within 50 miles of me that I've seen that are on millions of dollars worth of real estate, but they're old tin buildings and stuff like that. So there's a play where you buy the company, you build a showroom out somewhere on a different piece of property or on a corner of the property, and then you sell that real estate off later to be, quite frankly, raise those metal old barn-looking buildings out and turn it into something more profitable for the area. I
Yeah,
didn't even think about that.
one of them we're in negotiations just now. It's they've got a lot of acres, and part of it's going to be self storage business on land they're not using, which is pretty cool. Another one
There
we did, it was on the market for over 2 years, and we offered them. We bought it for a third of what they were wanting offers over, and we took a lease option, which a lease option is you're taking a lease on the property and you have a fixed priced option within a determined period of time. With the lease option, I then facilitate a management buyout as a short-term fix so that I don't have any hassle and the management are now on the lease. And then I then took up the option because I took a premium from the management. Yeah, but I put everything in place for them and made the business profitable, which is pretty easy, while I worked on the longer term game plan. And the longer term game plan is £25 million development for student housing. And that's, everyone went there
There's
and
a
seen,
thing inside of
yeah,
sorry about that. I was gonna
and
say there's a thing inside of real estate called the highest and best use, which isn't used most in most other industries. I haven't heard of that anywhere else. When I was in the residential space, we would even look at like in residential properties, there's a highest and best use of the property. For instance, if our property happened to be near a hospital, the highest and best use for that wasn't to rent it out to a single family house as a single family rental. The highest and best use was just to furnish it really nice, not even turn it into an Airbnb, but turn it into, corporate housing for traveling nurses, because they paid a premium, they took care of the property, would make way more rent on them than, as being fully furnished and had cleaners to go over, clean up, mower, lawn people that took care of the lawn. It was a full service type of thing to where if it was by the fairgrounds or event center, Airbnb was the highest and best use. And then if we didn't buy any of these, but if it happened to be near a college and you had multiple bedrooms and stuff, student housing and doing kind of boarding house rent would be the highest and best use. So
yeah,
taking that highest and best use mentality, I think, is brilliant inside of this space because sometimes what they've used that business for and that real estate for the last 30 years isn't
yeah.
the highest and best use of that real estate currently.
No, when you go into these kind of businesses, a lot of them, like the one this morning, been around for 64 years. So the grandfather set up like last week, 80 years old. The great grandfather set up
Mhm.
before this is before the Great War. It's incredible. So they've been the same business ever. Housing is developed up around about them. Other industries have developed around about them. And a lot of the times you've got to go in there with a new set of glasses on and ask yourself, what could be? What is the demand? And a lot of the businesses, this is incredible. A lot of the businesses can't afford to be in the property they're in. And that's a
Oh, that's a
real,
big problem. Yeah.
and that's an incredible thing. See, like Timvid Bowling Alley, doing 200,000 profit and 13,000 square feet. And it's only doing £220,000 rent now, but it costs one and a quarter and it's now worth 3.5 million. And there's no hassle. So it's turning it from multiple valuation, trading valuation to investment valuation. One's based on multiples of EBITDA, one's based on cap yields, cap compared yields, or caps as you call them over there. Yeah, when you blend the two things together, it's a fascinating world. You can do incredible things.
So one of the problems we have here is in a lot of areas, the real estate value has shot up considerably, right? Especially here in California. And I looked about, oh, it's been a month or two now. Guy had a fairly profitable company that did it was mostly land, the real estate anyway. I think they were on less than 5 acres, but it was a couple acres of land in a decent area in California, in a commercial area. They sold trailers, like cargo trailers and stuff like that, flatbed trailers, things you pull behind your truck. They even had like cattle trailers and horse trailers and stuff. It's kind of rural up here in the vineyard areas. So they had all that kind of stuff. And the problem they had is he didn't own the real estate. His high school buddy did. And when we started looking at the business, I had to call and negotiate a lease with the high school buddy. And he's like, "Oh no, the rent's going up. It's going to be $12,000 a month." And I'm like, that's more than this business makes currently profit-wise. He goes, "Not my problem." Yeah, and I said, "What do you mean?" I told him, "You're making it to where your buddy can't sell his business." He goes, "Sure you can. They're just gonna have to move it." And I said, "Well, with that type of business, location is everything, right?" For the people that buy his trailers from him, they've been buying them for years. They know exactly where to go. They probably don't even remember his business name or his phone number. They just know where to drive to go get a part for the trailer or to upgrade their trailer. Anyway, it happens a lot here. Companies and it made me realize that often if you buy a business with real estate, you're undervaluing the real estate because technically if that real estate was owned by anybody else, that business could not afford to be there.
Oh, we see it all the time. Old businesses, imagine 80 years ago where you live just now, wherever anybody lives just now, unless you're in the desert. In a 80-year period, a lot has happened. A lot has changed. We have these 80 real estate cycles that have been going on for 200 years now. That are, they just kind of repeat and repeat and repeat. Now, that is the cycle of land, the basically economic rate of land, the 80-year real estate cycle. So we get booms and busts. We get 14-year upcycle with a mid-range hit and then a 4-year down. And that's what's happened for the last 200 years. So, and it's because of people settle, they then increase the value of land. Then they have new technology, you can build more apartments or whatever in the same bit of land. So it increases the land value again. And at some point, it goes too far and it obviously resets and it starts again. Now, over 80 years though, which is 4 cycles, been a hell of a lot of development, which means that a lot of things have increased in value exponentially compared to what it was 80 years ago. And that business is still churning out the same old, same old, same old. Therefore, there's a massive opportunity. Well, for me, I prefer the businesses that actually remain where they are. They can afford to be where they are. And we just buy multiple businesses and sell off the business, keep the real estate. But some businesses need to be relocated because they just aren't doing enough profit to warrant the value of the land. Like an engineering business we had to look at. This engineering business, they wanted 20 million. And the business was going great. I mean, absolutely fantastic. It was doing about 3 million EBITDA, probably a little bit overpriced, but his equipment, the investment that the owners have made was a labor of love. They bought everything. Everything was automated. It was incredible. And what I could see was the gold mine was all the land to the roundabout and there was nothing on it. It was scrap. It was their elephant's graveyard. And I looked at that as,
Mm.
oh my goodness, I'm losing my mind here. This is incredible. And I just seen drive-throughs, 4 drive-throughs there, and in a strip mall at the back of them. And, but we never got the deal, unfortunately, but it just goes to show when you're in your own industry, your own sector, that's all you know. So you can't, when you got your blinkers on for your sector, you can't go like that. You're just in your zone. And they're amazing. These owners were incredible, amazing at what they do. If anything, they've overinvested, to be honest, because their investment didn't match the EBITDA growth. But they just love what they do. They've got the cash and they've got no debt. So who's to blame them?
Right. One of the problems we're having here in the United States, and I'm sure it's there too, is if and when the owner realizes the true value of their real estate, often it's worth so much more than the business is. The only logical thing they see on their radar is sell their real estate and shut the business down, right? They
Yeah.
don't have, they either don't have the time or energy or wherewithal to go, okay, I need to relocate this to a different location that it can survive. Then I can sell the real estate at its peak value and then sell the business at its peak value also a year or 2 later. But by the time somebody's ready to sell, often here in the United States, they are 70 or something. They're mentally and physically done with it, and they don't have another, okay, I'm going to move this because everything, as well as I do, when you move a company, it's more than just moving stuff. Some people will travel and go, some people won't. You'll lose some key employees, you'll lose some key customers. It is a major disruption you have to plan
Yeah.
for, manage, and get over. So it's not just a 3-week adventure where we're going to hire some moving trucks and move it and it's back to where it was. Not most of the time anyway.
Well, one of the biggest things we talk against, and we've kind of narrowed our KPIs of what we look
Mhm.
for, straight data before we get in touch personally. And it's all old market deals. As we tried to do a few deals in the engineering space, but the owners were too young, to be honest. They didn't have the motivation. They had another, yes, they survived a couple of storms, but they can take another storm. Where now we focus on 65 to 75 years old business owners, baby boomers, basically. And that's all we do. That we do not contact anyone unless they're 65 to 75 plus another 8 KPIs. So that's our gig, and one of them is no debt.
I'm a marketing nerd by previous trade. That's what my master's degree is in. So I love a good tight target market. Here in the US, actually, I have to be honest, I have a hard time finding, we don't have Companies House like you do, and we don't have some of the data sources you guys have. I think you're in a location where, is it called Companies House?
Well, company's house is the backbone, but that's not the key. We don't search on there. We use kind of bespoke, our own kind of internal searching systems that we kind of use to find our match our 9 KPIs. And then after we do that, we then siphon the data into 3 different buckets: no debt, low debt, lots of debt. And they're all
Mhm.
just relevant at different times of the cycle. And then after that, we then go and hound them on social media, on see their websites and all this kind of stuff. So we've got our kind of own bespoke kind of systemized system that we use to kind of find businesses that probably, tick all our boxes and are probably, ripe for selling, but not all of them are. But, right now we're helping a couple of people do the same thing. And one of them actually, he had COVID again. And just as it's about to start, helping him do what he needs to do for the searching. And he got COVID. So we just said, look, we'll do the first bit for you. It's not part of the gig, but we'll help you out because he really needs help. So we did that. And on that one, we sent 50 letters. Now we've got a multiple approach kind of thing, but we sent 50 direct mail handwritten letters. His thing to do is laborious, but every single one of them gets open. We've got a call with one business that is in complete and utter distress, and he shouldn't be. It's because of his age, his health, and the bank's been a big bad bully. We spoke to him this morning, and all the accounts are through already. Accounts, cash flow valuations, customer list, supplier list, all that kind of stuff that we ask for. And it's easy to fix his situation, but he can't see it because he's in his own forest.
It's interesting. What I was gonna say in that about sourcing deals and stuff is I have yet in 3 years I've been in this space, been able to identify a really good accurate source of CEO's age. So, I used to tell everybody I'm a direct mail guy, and I've been in seminars with Jay Abraham. I've been trained by Dan Kennedy. I've been through the different mentors and stuff. But I used to my running joke for a long time in the direct mail space is like, look, if you wanted a list of pet owners that own one-armed monkeys, somebody owns that list, right? I can find somebody who owns a list of one-armed monkey owners, and we can send them direct mail. And I say that in the last 3 years, I've yet to find someplace that has an accurate list. Data Axle, all those, they don't have age demographics on CEOs, right? Because I want that list. I want a list of 65 plus CEOs. I found ways to abstract it, like figure it out a little bit through multiple data sources, but it's not as simple as just go buy a list from somebody like it is in a lot of industries, at least here. And so
Yeah.
if somebody's listening out there and you know where to get age demographics in the US, I'd love to hear it. So,
Uh,
do you have a source there that has, like, they collect that data there or
Well, there's multiple softwares we use, but it's a question of don't rely on one system and create your own system. It's bespoke that works. And that's kind of what we do. And it's a bit, yeah, it is laborious to be honest, but we've done the mass marketing thing where we just send out loads and the response is everyone's seen it before. Like one of our things
Mhm,
that we learned from Jay Abraham, and in fact, when we come back from Spain this time, we're starting a very specific direct mail piece. And it's going to be a box of Ferrero Rocher. Who's not going to open them? Back in the gaming industry days, we used to send out envelopes with Kit Kats and a long form sales letter that nobody read, but they were just that excited. They came in and spent a ton of money. And it used to say, headline, stick the kettle on, kick back, and let me tell you a story. Something like that. Then we sent another one with a tea bag attached to the the letter as well. And then we sent one that was a bit crazy. It was a box with a banana insect. And this promotion is going to make you go eat or something stupid like that. And all it was attention, grab their attention and make them actually do something. And it's all the same. Last week, I got 2 letters into the house that we got
mhm,
packages, for the girls, as in buying stuff, boxes from delivery people, it's DPD and all this kind of stuff. But I actually had 2 letters. That was it. But everyone's trying to send mass emails where to get someone's attention at either the place of work, if it's marked in the correct manner, or at their home, especially if you give them a gift, it's just getting opened. And if you've targeted APIs to the right kind of people anyway, then you just got a better chance. You're upping your open rates, and that's all it is. Plus, you're standing out. You're being memorable. Who gets a box of Ferrero Rocher in the post? Yeah, we've got a kind of follow up system because, as everyone, or hopefully everybody knows, the goal is in the follow up. Out of
mhm,
5% of the people that you buy their business, 3% are ready right now. They're hot prospects. You might not even have them on your list just now. So yes, you get deals right now, but the 97% are not quite ready today. Maybe they're going to have a health scare at Christmas, in January, in February, probably in the winter, or somebody near dear is going to have a health scare. And it's at those life moments is when, like after a holiday, after the holiday season, in the summer, in the winter,
mhm.
after a long extended winter, and somebody has caught a COVID or something again, It's at those inflection points is when people make decisions to move, to even investigate, maybe not do, but investigate. And it's at those times you need to have like a 3-year system of follow up, because somebody recently, I cannot believe this myself. And I love follow up, but I can't believe this. He, um, he said, I got your letter 4 years ago. I was like, what? I says, talk about procrastination. And then he told me what happened. Again, it was a health issue.
Yeah, I sent so much direct mail in the real estate space that, it wasn't until it was probably about 6 months ago, I get a phone call on a number I don't use anymore, like, it still rings, it's still directed to my phone, but it's like a Google number or whatever, and I was like, "That's my old real estate number, what is somebody calling me on that for? I haven't done real estate since 2017," right? So I call him, he goes, "Hey, I have this letter here you sent," and in my head, I'm thinking, "I haven't sent any mail out since 2016." 'Cause I sold that business to my business partner in 2017. So he sent some, but it wouldn't ring to this number. So I just listened to the guy and I said, "How long did you keep my letter?" He goes, "Oh, well, it's been on my refrigerator. We bought houses out of foreclosure." And he said, "We pulled it out and now we're facing it again. We refinanced it. I used money to start a business. The business went under. And now we're facing losing our house again. And I need to see if I can get your help." And I was thinking, he kept that on his that letter I sent to him on his refrigerator underneath a magnet for what is it now, 7 years, right? 8 years? And he's calling us, and it happens, like, I remember, in the industry, we were used to getting 6-month-old calls and maybe 12-month-old calls, but, some people will hold on to that, and it'll be on their desk for a long time.
What's tragic about that? And I find that devastatingly tragic in terms of psychology. In the morning, when you're more close to your alpha theta kind of vibrate, frequencies, which is means you're more attuned to the kind of universe and whatever, or the ability to attract things in, synchronicity. Then, but to have that on your refrigerator is one of the first things you go to in the morning and visualize that. It's kind of like you're programming yourself for that to happen on the fridge. That's pretty nuts. That's a shame, actually. You know,
So tell me, if somebody was looking for a great deal where the real estate and to do what you're doing, kind of give us, you don't have to give us your secret sauce or anything, but what are some of those KPIs and like your search criteria so that somebody can go, you know what, I really liked what he said here. I want to build some type of search criteria. Where would they start to develop the skills they would need and the search criteria they need to be able to do to double dip like you were talking about, to buy the real estate or provide the business, to buy the real estate and to exit with them later on or hold on.
what I do requires investors, and we have a private investors club, and that helps. But these investors, they're friends, so I look after their money more than I look after my own money. I protect them first, and so you have to kind of come with that mindset of you're kind of serving them first, and you're secondary. So if you can do that, if you can then create relationship with investors, if you get around the compliance of that, the regulation of that, which is not straightforward in America or the UK, which shouldn't be taken on lightly, to be honest. There is a lot of regulation around that. And in the UK, you go to jail, which is all cool. So you have to really kind of put, you got to say that first. And that take that on board. Then for me, we only target 65 to 75-year-old people or plus 65.
Mm.
That's number one. Number two, it has to own real estate. So we investigate. Yeah. Number three is it has to be a need, not a want. It has to be non-discretionary business. So discretionary businesses are a recession hits, wages get cut, and you're worried about your job, and you cut everything in the household expenditure that's not a need. Everything else is a want. You never want to buy a business in a want space. Yeah, discretionary space. Why? Because it's the first to go in a recession, in a downturn, in a cutback. So that's kind of some of my kind of KPIs. There's 9 in total. And, I kind of like to keep a lot to myself. I share some, the whole thing, what we do in detail. And actually, there's a couple of people I help. We used to help people do commercial real estate. We did some training in that, but I kind of stopped that after a while, but I still help a couple of people. And, it's not a big thing I want to do, but we are going to be helping maybe a couple more. What I see in terms of kind of giving back, or the kind of thing I want to create is have a board, like a boardroom or a war room, 10 people in a room in Marbella, in London, in vineyards in France, that kind of thing. We meet once a quarter and we help them through deals. Cause that to me is just fun. I don't know, but I like to combine deal doing with new experiences with my family. And so that's skiing, vineyards, being in Marbella in Spain, and things like that. So that's kind of what I want to do. So I'm going to go towards that. I don't know when I'm going to start that at some point this year, but two people inadvertently is kind of became part of that already. But in
Mhm.
terms of KPI, so share then exactly what I do. And I like one chap today, I said, he had COVID, so we actually sent letters. We then took calls. We've had a first meeting today. It looks great. I've now got all this. This is not supposed to be part of it. I've got all the accounts. I've got to analyze the stuff, put the kind of deal structure together, and get back to the chap tomorrow. So that's not the normal thing, because that's like him being a passenger and me be the driver. It's not meant to be.
Right.
But when a whole thing comes along in a deal, when something hot comes along, you just drop everything and you just go with it. That's my philosophy, you know?
Have you done this outside of the European, theater? Like, have you done it in the United States or Australia or anywhere else?
No, never done it anywhere else, just the UK just now, but I definitely want to be party to some deals in America, to be honest. And why is that? Because of what I said before, I love deals and I love experiences with my family.
Mhm.
Anywhere I can combine that together is a kind of happy place for me. So that includes California, Florida, potentially, and obviously the big space in between. But, somewhere
Mhm.
where I've just been in Florida in February there, had a great time in Miami, and just love the Sunshine State, love the Caribbean, love the West Coast. So yeah, I want to spend some time there. So I'm kind of the next phase of my life is designing, picture what your life, the perfect life would be, the perfect day that you could live day in, day out, and then reverse engineer that. So how much money do you need? Therefore, how many deals do you need? And part of my perfect day is a month in perhaps California, a month in Florida, or, a month in America, a month in the Caribbean, and a month skiing, and 6 months in Spain, which doesn't leave very much time for the UK.
It's interesting, if you're looking for warm, the January I think you say January through March frame, it's not here in California, at least up where I'm at in Northern California, right? We have a cool thing where the water up here actually comes from the north. So even during the middle of the summer, everybody sees these pictures I post all the time, this beautiful California coast, and I live right on that area where you see in movies where they're driving down the windy road and there's cliffs and the waves are hitting the water over the cliffs and stuff.
Yeah.
I drive that road every day. It's Highway 1, and it's, quite literally the 12 miles from here. So when I get off here today, I might even go over there and go to Bodega Bay and watch the Coast Guard cutters go in and out and do some work via email and stuff. That said,
Yeah,
that water is during the hottest part of summer, that water is 48 to 50 degrees, which cools the whole area down.
on one of the land on one of the deals we're looking at just now, they've got quite a lot of
Mhm,
acre. And, part of it they use, and they've used for 80 years. And the other part, there's nothing happening on it. So we're going to do self-storage and lease that out. So we're not getting involved, but as part of it, have a shed to potentially build some vans as a
mhm,
little hustle, a hobby. And the reason for that is in America, you have incredible vans. I've been watching all the custom ones and they look phenomenal. In the UK, there's none of that. Yes, that some people do them, but all they're doing is taking stock items and putting them in the van.
yeah.
It's not very good at all. But anyway, it's more of a hobby kind of thing. And
Well, I wanna tell you that I appreciate having you here today. I learned some stuff. I've got these I'm gonna like, when we get off here, this doesn't happen very often, but when we get off here, I'm gonna draw out a business model off I have built in my head of what you told me about, because I think it applies to the current project we're on, and it might give us a way to expand and, have a second exit inside of that. So I love what you taught me here today. I appreciate it, and if you ever need anything, reach out to me. I'll connect you with anybody I know, and, help you move your game forward anytime you need anything whatsoever that I can help you move your game forward, let me know, and I'll make that connection for you.
yeah, cool. Ron, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks very much, buddy.
Cool. Hang out for just a few seconds, we'll call that a show. I want to announce our new channel partners, the ITX Marketplace. Since 1998, ITX has created $5 billion in value by selling more than 225 IT businesses in 20 countries. ITX works exclusively with IT-enabled businesses generating between $5 million and $30 million who are ready to be sold, and M&A decision makers who are ready to buy. For over 25 years, ITX has developed industry knowledge that helps determine whether a seller is a good fit for their buyers before making the match. ITX Mergers and Acquisition Marketplace we have partnered with has a proprietary database of 50,000 plus global buyers seeking IT service firms, managed service providers, Microsoft service providers, software as a service platforms, and channel partners with Microsoft, Oracle, ServiceNow, and the Salesforce space. If you have an IT-enabled business you're ready to sell, I want you to visit the itexchangenet.com/marketplace, how to exit. That link will be in the show notes. Visit them now.